She herself said that, yeah. And there's still a strange relationship between her and her mother. I mean, maybe. And there's not enough reason to ask, but I don't know. But it's still, I'm sorry. I can remember when I was only 12, I was just at breast, but they weren't that big yet. My parents turned our downstairs playroom because I had 6 brothers. It was just, and well, not living now, but at the time I had 6 brothers and my sisters, 6 girls and 2 boys. I mean, 6 boys and 2 girls. So once I started entering into puberty, my parents did away with the downstairs playroom, which was actually basically a locker room as far as I'm concerned. Everybody had their own cubbies to store their toys so that people weren't stealing each other's toys, and it just reduced the amount of fighting.
It works, yeah.
So they did away with that and converted it to a bedroom for my sister and I. And it had its own little commode cubby. We didn't have a sink, but we had a toilet. So it's still private for girls. Well, especially when it's that time of the month.
Yeah.
So that's why they wanted us downstairs and away from the boys, so that there was no possibility of impropriety. Yeah. What? Yeah. Got very bright in here.
Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. Who's going to start us now? It's 45 minutes late. I'm just going to be like, okay, whatever. Let's start.
I like your disclaimer.
Well, no, it's spelled wrong.
Where?
Considered or a substitute.
No, it's not considered legal advice, and it is not a substitute for legal
Fair
advice.
enough. Okay.
I was like,
The grammar is correct.
yeah, I was like,
I'm just saying, I just find it funny that it's there. But I understand it too.
Got it.
I want to make sure it's like up front, the first, you know.
Yeah.
Let me watch it again.
Yeah.
You don't do it? I'm sorry, because I'm going to go to the bathroom.
So tonight's one of those nights
No, I'm going to the
where
bathroom anyway. So.
there is like nobody here. And
and I looked
there's
outside the
technical difficulties and there's everything. So we're doing tonight as a dry run, and then we're rescheduling Daniel for next week. I mean, next month rather. God, no, not next week. Next month, the November meeting. But we're still gonna kind of do this tonight, and we're gonna have it on the recording. That way, everyone has, all the goodies that he's going to share, all the nuggets he's going to share.
Are you live?
I am live, yes.
Has anyone off? Can you tell?
I have no information on whether someone's on right now. I have no information on if anyone's on right now. I haven't looked. And even if there's no one on right now, they will be able to. We record it, we live stream it, and it's actually stored on the Facebook page. That way, anyone can refer to it at any time in the future. So I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to just check and see if there's anything they want to be on for, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So much for that.
One of the benefits about tonight's presentation being the way it is there's no visuals of me looking a hot mess. So that's one small grace and positive, as it were.
Well, do your announcements while we're waiting.
Yes, I will. All right, so for those who are not able to see me, because that's everyone, my name is David Green. I am the president of the Katy Lions Club and Foundation. The Katy Lions Club is a service organization. We're an all-volunteer service organization, and we have been serving the Katy, Texas, and surrounding community since 1972. We support our community through a lot of initiatives, and I encourage everyone to visit us on the web at www.katylions.org. So I want to introduce our leaders, which again, you're not going to be able to see them from, the screen right now tonight because It is what it is. But if you visit our website, again, katylions.org, you can go to katylions.org/leaders, or when you go to the website, click Team Leaders at the top, and you'll be able to see all of our smiling, beautiful faces. My name is David again. I am the president. I'm also the communications director. We have Lydia Osuna, who is our first vice president and our membership chairperson. Lydia actually is an amazing person who used to work in the medical field, so there's that awesome experience from her. Then we have Tawana Goodwin. Tawana is our second vice president and also our education chair. Education chair is a new position this year that we wanted to really bring about. We wanted to ensure that we were, focusing on fostering, an environment for our young people beyond just our basic Leo's Club. Tawana actually used to work for Pathways, which was a foster placement organization. She now works at the Brookwood Center, which is a special needs center. We have Sue Green. Sue is our treasurer and our club administrator. Sue used to work in the finance field, and she was a treasurer for her local union before moving, before that union got...
Secretary treasurer.
She was the secretary and treasurer of that union. She worked nearly 40 years, with her accounting experience and accounting background. Her most recent position in that field, because she's now a preschool teacher, which is her true passion. She was the benefits coordinator for a city municipality. So if you were a veteran, if you were a senior, if you were disabled, if you were eligible for some kind of taxation benefits or benefits from the city, she either handled it herself or she redirected you to the social team that did.
It was our state's equivalent to the homesteaders as well as the veterans.
It was the Connecticut state equivalent to the homesteaders and also veterans and what have you. Our secretary in our parliamentarian, that's Maddie Thigpen. Maddie has worked, in the community for years. She's originally from Louisiana, but she's really made Texas and the Katy community her home. She's also worked in the hospitality field for years, and she did work in accounting. She's previously held positions as secretary of other boards. Rounding out our board of directors is Angela Goad. Angela is our safety officer and our lion tamer. Now, lion tamer, for those who don't know, is that position is basically the keeper of the stuff. Back in 1917, Lions Clubs International was just starting out, and they wanted to be special. They wanted to be different. They wanted to be unique. What we would call extra now. And so the best way to do that was, instead of calling it Sergeant at Arms or calling it, facilities guy or stuff keeper, they had to create their own unique title. Lion Tamer is one of those titles that has lasted decades, and when I was like, okay, I don't like that title, but I don't have anything better. So guess what? We're going to keep the position as Lion Tamer. Now I want to talk about our advisors, our coordinators, and our liaisons. So as part of our organization, we serve, a lot of different purposes. We provide, support for childhood cancer, patients who are dealing with that and their families. We work with, families going through, type 2 diabetes. We focus on the environment, on hunger, on vision, on our young people, our youth. We also support disaster relief. A couple of years ago during that big freeze, we were at the forefront in our district in getting the funding to support our community. Most of the other Lions clubs in our district, they weren't doing anything. They were too paralyzed by, oh my God, I'm cold. And we said, yeah, I'm cold, but I'm still going to do something because that's what Lions do. So just a little bit of shade at the other clubs that didn't do as much as they were supposed to. So with that said, our childhood cancer coordinator is Daniel Lee. So he's actually going to be, he's our guest speaker tonight, but he's also going to be pioneering and focusing and overseeing our annual toy drive. This is something we've done for, Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, a decade or more?
Yes, yep.
Over a decade. Every year we collect thousands of toys for local charities, including the Texas Children's Hospital West Campus. And Daniel is overseeing that effort this year. We have J.D. Shipley. J.D. is our diabetes coordinator. He actually runs Starting Strength Katy, which is a strength training gym, and his philosophy is stronger is better. What that also means is, instead of just getting better at being able to pick things up and putting things down, You can get a better golf game, but also it increases your circulation, which decreases your risks of type 2 diabetes. Estela Yanez is our Hispanic Outreach Advisor. This year, this is a brand new position that we created this year because the Katy community is definitely growing in the Hispanic population, and we wanted to outreach to that population. Estela is an amazing woman, and we wanted to, ask her to step up and do that, and we did, and she said yes. So she is our Hispanic Outreach Advisor. Kiva Mackey, who runs Children Like Lonnie, she's the Executive Director of Children Like Lonnie, which is another nonprofit that supports up in the Cypress and Katy community. She is our Hunger Coordinator. Now, Kiva runs Children Like Lonnie, which is primarily, it's first and foremost, a food pantry. It's the local arm and wing of the Houston Food Bank. So she's our Hunger Coordinator, and when we do a lot of our hunger, our outreach and what have you, we work with her on that. Excuse me. Caswell Jones. Caswell is a high school teacher, and he's also our legal advisor. He works with he works with Tawana to ensure that our education of our children are good and positive. Tammy Howell is our assistant secretary. She's got a lot of experience doing that. Patricia Garman, who works at MD Anderson, is our vision coordinator. So last year we did 14,000 pairs of glasses collected. We're trying to double that this year, and she's helping us make that happen.
You're gonna pick up the pace.
And finally, we have Al Green rounding out the listing. Al is our, he focuses on youth sports. He runs the Katy Lions basketball team. He believes that, teenage boys have very few outlets to expend their energy. And so he said, you know what? By God, I'm going to do something about it. And so he did. He founded the Katy Lions basketball team, not realizing that there was also a Katy Lions club. So, of course, we had to bring him in the fold. All Katy Lions got to stick together. So that is all of our positions that we have on the dock right now. Once again, we had some technical difficulties. So normally we would be posting this on our regular Facebook page, which is facebook.com/beagreatlion, and then cross-posting it to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/green with an ETX. But unfortunately, for reasons that are as yet unknown, Facebook had a hiccup and our page is not operational. So we're as one of our members put it, we're in Facebook jail, which, okay, fair. So now we're pretty much we're winging it at this point tonight. So again, I told you about the purpose of the club. We're here to help and we're here to serve. In fact, that's our motto. We serve. We serve the Katy community. We identify needs and we meet needs. So if you live in the Katy community, if you work in the Katy community, and you know about something that the Katy community needs, please reach out to us. You can email hello@katylions.org and it'll get to us. Let us know what you need. Let us know how we can be of better service to our community. And speaking of service, I want to talk about some statistics. I'm going to compare the statistics we've got this year with the statistics from last year. So our operating year is July 1st to June 30th. So all of these stats that I have right now are just since July 1st. So we're talking just 3 months. We have served over 180,000 people so far. Last year's total was 323,000. We have logged over 37,000 volunteer hours. Last year's totals were just a little over 60,000. So we are over halfway there, only a quarter of the way into the year. We've knocked out 488 activities. We've got those on the books, whereas last year's total, 951. So we're more than halfway there this year, again, only a quarter of the year in. And finally, so far this year, we've either directly or indirectly led to over $24,000 in support to our local community. Last year's total was over $77,000. We are a little dragging right now, but if you come out to the Rice Harvest Festival tomorrow night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, the Katy Lions Club, we brought the carnival this year. So enjoy the carnival knowing that your participation is actually going to benefit the community doubly so because we like to serve. Tonight's a little different for another reason. We have a guest speaker who's actually going to get 2 months in a row. Daniel Lee is an attorney. He is got a lot of experience working with families, working with businesses. I consider him a very good friend of mine. If anything goes wrong, I know he's the guy I can call. I'm not sure how else to introduce him other than Daniel. Come on up and let's get your presentation started.
All right. Thanks for having me. Okay. Can everyone see me from here?
Nobody can see you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not.
It's just those of us.
Yeah, no. I couldn't figure out how to do both, so you got the presentation. That way,
All right.
the presentation is visible.
Do I click it or you're clicking?
I will take care of that for you.
You're gonna click it. Okay. Okay. So my name's Daniel Lee, and I've been a lawyer for the last 15 years here in Harris and Fort Bend County. We are today talking about the impact of the new laws that were passed by our Texas State Legislature in 2021. Now, they passed a ton of different laws. I just handpicked a few that I believe that people want to know. And the common theme of the ones I did pick are essentially related to jail somehow. I picked a theme and I thought it was interesting that jail time got sprinkled into different laws that maybe you or your friends and family might not be aware of. So once again, no, this presentation is not legal advice. It's not considered legal advice. I'm just describing what the laws are and allowing you guys to know what the consequences are based on my interpretation of the reading of the current laws.
If you need legal advice, call me at.
Yeah, if you need legal advice or you have any actual legal questions, my phone number is there at 832-632-4639, or you can check us out at leelegalgroup.com, and that's 2 weeks. So, David, can you click on to the next slide?
Yes, I just have to figure out how. Jim.
All right. So this slide with all the crazy DNA and matrix pictures on there describes what I feel is what it looks like when you read these laws. The way these laws read, they're super complicated, and so I'm going to try to summarize them for you. So here are the 6 that we picked. There was a ban on abortions. There was a change in gun possession laws. There's issues in relation to how teachers teach and protesting, marijuana possession and the legality of marijuana possession, and camping. Camping, they sprinkled camping in there somehow. So we'll talk about that. Next slide. So a little bit about how these laws are created. Now I know we've all seen the School of, what was that called? The little School of Rock and Saturday morning cartoons. They kind of gave you like a 30-second spiel on how it works, right? And I'm just going to give you all a refresher. So our laws here in Texas, just like nationally, are a little bit different, right? Our laws are created every 2 years, typically. Now, they can have special sessions, but outside of that, in general, every 2 years our 2 houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate meet. They create bills. It goes through a vetting process through committees, and if the committees approve of it, you will then have something that gets submitted to the governor. If the governor votes on it and says yes, then you will have a law, right? So that's the simple, Cliff Notes version of that. Now, representatives are voted every 2 years. Governors, as you know, Abbott and Beto are running this year, and Governor Abbott's our current governor. Attorney General is every 4 years, and those are statewide. That's this year, November 8th, 2022. And early voting is October 24th to November 4th, and October 11th is your last day to register. So if you haven't registered, go to your local, county, I think it's either county clerk or voter registration BDR agent, and they will help you get registered. Now, our first topic and our first law that we will discuss is SB 8. It's known with many different names, the Heartbeat Bill, the Trigger Ban, and essentially everyone knows Roe v. Wade, which is a federal case that recently, in the summer of this year, the Supreme Court of the United States had overturned. And unfortunately, because it gets overturned, these laws can kick in, right? The intention was probably not for the law to kick in because Roe v. Wade had been around for decades, and no one knew it was going to kick in, but they made this law in case it would kick in. So our state legislature created HB 1280, and essentially abortions are banned after the presence of a heartbeat as early as 6 weeks. So these legislatures, legislative representatives and senators, they basically created a law that stated that physicians would have to determine whether or not there was a heartbeat. And there's a lot of discussion right now as to what is considered heartbeat, what's not. And without getting into that, I'll get into what I'm an expert on, which is the law and reading it. So as I read the law, it basically says that they have to go through essentially a third party, and this third party would be kind of the tiebreaker as far as whether or not it's a heartbeat, right? I don't know which agency this is specifically, and based on just a blind reading of the law without getting into any case law, which I don't know if there is yet any case law right off the top of my head, but just reading that, there's a little bit of confusion on there, and a little bit of confusion can affect lives. So I'll touch on the things that are absolutes, and the absolute parts are physicians that are essentially guilty of having and performing this type of procedure on someone outside of what the parameters are of this SB, which is Senate Bill 8 parameters, will be charged with a felony. They could potentially lose their license to practice medicine for performing essentially abortions that are outside the presence of an heartbeat. And the trigger ban that kicked in essentially made this bill not applicable to either rape or incest. They're no longer exceptions. Next. Gun possession. So that's House Bill 1927. Now, when you see on the slide HB, that means it originated from the House of Representatives. You see SB, it originated from the Senate. So our new law that we have here now in relation to handguns is that we don't need a permit anymore. So before this bill was passed, and I myself am and are still a concealed handgun license owner. That's a CHL. So we would have to take I would say somewhere between a 4 to an 8 hour course, and it includes about 20 to 30 minutes of shooting, right? Not really enough to be deadly, but enough to know that, okay, this is how the trigger works and where the bullets go, and I know how to aim it and things of that nature, right? The written test is very long, and there's a person that does a long lecture, and if you're lucky, you might get some food or some comedy. Okay, and we usually do it at like a Luby's or at a restaurant before we go to the gun range. So I believe that was the minimum, I think, qualifications for you to get a concealed handgun license, along with a background check and that would allow you to carry a handgun. Now you don't need all that. So next, so teachers. So House Bill 3979 limits teachers' discussion on current events, and essentially, I believe that it affects those that may touch on CRT. So there's a chance that in certain districts, some kids won't learn
What is CRT? Yes.
critical race theory.
Okay.
And some kids won't learn key lessons about social injustice because of certain limitations that they put on certain current events that you may or may not be able to talk about. The other interesting thing is kids that used to receive school credit for civic engagement no longer can receive school credit for that. And that's unfortunate because I think civil engagement is important. I don't know exactly.
Well, I know, like, when I was
Yeah.
in school,
I don't
we
know
had-
exactly.
We had high school volunteers in the government center so that they could learn how the city government worked and
Yes,
basically that would cut that
that's a
out.
good example. So I don't know for a fact, a lot of these laws are new, and so until they've essentially been litigated, meaning somebody gets in trouble in court, then we don't know the exact parameter, right? Because when you read the law, it doesn't actually say passing out flyers for a candidate. It doesn't say scheduling, a block walk or a phone bank for this particular nonprofit or this particular type of organization. So until more details come out about it, we can just kind of generally speculate.
I mean,
If
the
that
way
makes sense.
that reads to me, it just says that the kids are not going to receive school credit.
Correct. But
It's
we don't
not-
know what type of activity
Yeah.
specifically that means, right? So I would imagine that it would be what the old curriculum was, right, and what you used to get credit for, and I don't know what it is for each school or each school district, what it entails, but whatever that is, that no longer is going to be the case. All right, thanks. Protesting. So I believe this came about due to all the violence that happened during 2021 with the protests. So the legislature reacted quickly and swiftly and created House Bill 9. Essentially, protesters cannot block emergency vehicles and they cannot block hospitals during a protest. Otherwise, they could be serving jail time. Right? Now, I don't know how that applies if the protesters are inadvertently getting in the way of emergency vehicles, or because oftentimes when people protest, they do take up the street. And so if a emergency vehicle approaches, are you technically blocking them to be arrested? So if you decide to protest anything, just be careful that if an emergency vehicle comes by, you might want to get out of the way because they passed a law that you could potentially get jail time. Now, this was a problem. The second part is a problem that I do recall seeing in the protests in 2021. I believe is it 2020? No, I think it was 2020. The protests were mainly,
2020.
the protests were mainly in 2020, and there were people that were protesters using laser pointers, and so officers did not know if they were laser pointers or if they were sniper rifles. Yes, and so if a protester uses a laser pointer and points it at an officer or uses fireworks at a protest, that could be a felony. And I could see why, because you light fireworks, it sounds like guns, and you're causing a stampede or a ruckus, and people could get hurt. And being that we are in Texas, and earlier I showed you permitless carry of handguns, you could see how that could escalate into something super dangerous for everyone that's involved. legalization of medical marijuana. So, marijuana, also known as weed and many other names, is now legal to treat cancer and PTSD. So I believe that's a step in the right direction for those that are dealing with cancer and dealing with PTSD. However, weed is no longer legal for pain. So those that were using marijuana for pain treatment purposes no longer can use that. Now, I know that a lot of these CBD stores have popped up, and oftentimes people are using the CBD oil as a form of ointment or pain ointment, right? I believe that is still legal. When we talk about legalizing medical marijuana, we are actually describing THC. So, thanks. Camping. Now, who thought we would be discussing camping at a legal course or a legal update? Well, we're going to do that here today. So, there's no public camping anymore under HB 1925. It is actually a Class C misdemeanor if you're caught camping in the city, and we believe that this was done intentionally to target those areas, those big cities that have large, it's trying to break up those large encampments. So we have some of those in Houston, and after this was passed, there was an enforcement to take down, some of those campsites, right? And I believe Austin has a large number of campsites as well.
Katie did, because I know that there was a big breakdown just the other side of I-10 in the woods on Mason. They were, I think there was like about 10 different parties that had their tents set up, and they were living in there. And, they had a common fire pit and stuff, but they were living in there and camping in there. And there was another one over here by Clay and 99.
Correct. And so if you're in the city limits and you're not in, I believe, a designated campsite or a national park, maybe in your own backyard on your private property, there will be no more camping. Otherwise, you'll be cited for a Class C. So a Class C is typically not a misdemeanor with jail time. Usually it's at the same level as a traffic ticket. So you put up a tent and you pop that up in downtown Houston, well, get ready to pay a couple $100, maybe go to court.
Backyard?
So not on private property. So if it's your private property, you're fine.
Okay, so those little kids aren't going to be penalized for having their backyard campouts anymore.
No, not backyard camp house, not front yard camp house. I think you'll be fine.
Well, the HOA stuff like the front yard.
No.
Yeah, right.
Now,
Big Brother
now
likes
the
to
now
do
the
that.
question on this one is what is considered camping. So I would imagine that if you're pitching a tent, you're probably camping, right? So if you're sleeping outside in a sleeping bag, I would say not camping, right? Starting a fire, starting a bonfire with maybe a sleeping bag and some blankets, probably not camping, but starting a fire in downtown is a whole different charge. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. So, I put that there, just to say that, we need to essentially, as a whole, understand these laws, right? And instead of just talking about them, really get active in knowing how they affect our public, and spreading the word and letting people know before they get in trouble, or your friends or family gets in trouble for some of these things, that they're aware of it, so that they don't have to call me or call anybody else to bail them out of jail. Because the common theme in a lot of these is jail time or criminal financial punishment. And a lot of times, as a defense attorney, I hear, "Oh well, I didn't know that," right? Well, because we're all citizens here in the state, we're required to know. We're required to know, and whether or not the officers enforce these or not, and maybe some of the officers may not even know that these are active laws and how to enforce them, right? They might not. They might be new, and they might not be trained in how to arrest somebody for some of these things. You have to, as an individual and a citizen here, be ready for that. So
What type of law do you practice?
we practice family law,
Family law?
personal injury, civil litigation. My wife Vanessa there handles a lot of personal injury cases that we have.
Oh,
Yeah, slip and falls and car accidents. Yep.
a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, and we represent some companies. We have 3 locations all over Houston. So here's a timeline. It's not really a timeline. It's more like just kind of helps identify, the topics that we just covered. Now, here are some law changes that didn't happen, but were discussed. So there's certain things that when people are bringing up different types of code, they bring in front of the committees and they don't make it. These are the things that we might be looking at in 2023. We have issues in relation to potentially raising the limit on gun possession to 21.
What is it currently?
I believe it's 18 for certain types of guns. Yeah, and raising teachers' pay, cost of living adjustment for retired teachers, property tax reduction. We have there's discussions on moving the budget towards mental health in schools for teens or college children, college kids. Sorry, they're not children anymore, but investing in resources in that field, and passing legislation to essentially increase the power facilities that we have here, the power grid, and to protect the workers that work on it, right? And essentially get it so that our electric bills aren't as high next summer. And so those are things that weren't addressed this past time, and maybe addressed the next time, that you guys could be aware of and look forward to when they're discussing these things this next spring. So you can pay attention to those items and maybe talk to your state representative or senator that's in your area to tell them that, hey, these are kind of important to me. So let's talk about them, let's have a discussion, and help out, these people that are affected by these types of topics and potential laws. Next. So there was a law passed that dealt with voting and redistricting. So redistricting happens every once in a while, every few years, and that's a redrawing of the districts. And you might be in one district one year, your representative or your senator might be one person one year, and it might switch. And then you say, oh, why? And it looks looks different from last year. Well, when the population changes and the census comes out, people that are in the Senate or the House, they get to essentially vote on how the lines are redrawn to fit, the demographic and the types of people that are in their area, right? And so on the House side, each district has approximately 200,000 people, right? So it's really not by size, it's more by population, right? And so here are different examples of what different districts currently look like. They don't always say district. The house, state house, gets cut in one type of drawing, and then layered on top, the Senate has a different drawing. Congress has a different map. So every layer of government, because you're represented by multiple people, have a different map. They're not the same at all. And even your county, the commissioners, they draw up like different maps for your precincts, right? And the reason why you want to know who your precincts are, and if you're in one precinct versus the other, when you're asking for services like police officers, or you're looking for an ambulance, or you're looking for your cat, trying to get your cat out from the tree or something like that, you want to know where to go. And so sometimes that changes, and you got to be aware of that. So make sure that you look it up and know who's representing you, and what where their office is, so you can go over there and ask them questions or give them a call and say, hey, I need this fixed or I need that fixed, because I feel like this is affecting me in a negative way. And civic engagement is very important. So it's kind of sad that we lost that, because now our young people don't know how to engage, civically. So, and in summary, pay attention to the new laws. You never know when you're currently violating them, and you don't want to be knowing that you violated them when you're sitting behind bars or you're paying a large fine, right? So all those things are important. And remember, it's very important this year, because the theme that I saw in these 7 law changes that I saw were jail time related, or financial punishment related. So it's good to pay attention to those, and I would urge you to read up on those, because there's a lot more details than what I provided, and there's a lot more traps and pitfalls that you need to be aware of in case you or your loved ones are affected by them. So once again, my name is Daniel Lee. I've been practicing for the last 15 years in litigation here in Houston, Fort Bend, and all the surrounding counties. My email is clee@leelegalgroup.com. You can also reach me at my campaign website, daniellee@danielleefortexas.com. And full disclosure, I am running for the House District 26 House State Representative over here in Fort Bend County, which composes of Katy, Fort Bend, and Katy, Richmond, and Rosenberg. Any questions?
I guess there are no questions this time around, but you are coming back on November 3rd for a round 2.
Ah, awesome.
So round 2 is going to be, so that's that Thursday, and then the following week is the following week, or is it the following 2 weeks afterwards? Then on November 11th is when the election day is. So
November 8th.
November 8th? Oh my God, it's November 8th. Okay. I do not know anything, 100%. See, this is why we have a guy who knows what he's talking about here instead of me. Just spouting off of the mouth.
So you said November 3rd, right?
You are coming back November 3rd, the first
Okay.
Thursday, yes. Right, so yeah. You can sit down.
I can sit down, right?
You can sit down now, yes.
I
All right.
wasn't sure. I wasn't dismissed yet.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
So I wanted to touch on briefly, because I forgot to do this, I want to give an explanation of the statistics that we listed off earlier, and I want to reiterate them. So that 180,000 people served, the 37,000 hours logged, the 488 activities on the books, the $240,000 in support to the community. That is made up of a special way of doing it. Service outreach activities can be bigger service projects that span multiple days, smaller events, and anything that serves the community. Whether we're wearing a Lions shirt or if we're volunteering under the auspices of another Katy serving organization, serving Katy is what we're all about. So not all of those numbers are a Katy Lion and doing it with a Katy Lion shirt. Like we have one person who she volunteers for Katy Christian Ministries on a regular basis. Well, she's still a Katy Lion, which means her service is tracked as, this is the service we are out putting back into the community. monthly community nights, which these are our board meetings, our community meetings, our the committee meetings, the club meetings, planning sessions for events. Those are all also tracked as activities, and that's actually per International's determination. Any training that leads towards the growth in our Lions counts as development. So, for example, when I actually go through professional development training for my day job, that counts as training because it makes me a more well-rounded person and a more well-rounded member of our community, and that in turn means that I am better able to serve my community. So that's where those are. I also wanted to go over briefly just a couple of items that we have coming up. Once again, tomorrow night, so October 7th, 8th, and 9th, we have the Rice Harvest Festival. So that's actually in downtown Katy. If you need to GPS it because you're not from around here, that's quite all right. We'd love to have you come out anyway. 910 Avenue C in Katy, Texas. Then October 14th is the last date for the Katy Peace Poster Competition. That's the last date that we're going to be accepting those posters. So if you have a young person, 11 to 13 years old, please go ahead and have them get in contact with their art teacher because we've got just a few days left to have them get their art projects in, so that way their schools can judge those projects. Then on October 22nd, we are partnering with the Katy Heritage Society. We're actually going to be bringing the temporary tattoo booth to this year's Vintage Carnival that's happening on George Bush Drive. If you'd like more details, visit the Katy Heritage Society's website, katyheritagesociety.com.
What does that mean?
The Vintage Carnival?
No, what temporary?
So temporary tattoos as part of the Vintage Carnival, basically they're like the kids kind of tattoos that get applied with the water and then they peel off throughout the day, and they look horrible by the end of the night. Yes, that's what those are. So once again, visit our website or visit katyheritagesociety.com for that. Then at the end of this month, we are actually going to be writing a check to a lucky winner of the Katy Heritage Society's scholarship. So October 1st was the due date, the last date to submit entries for that scholarship, and we partnered with the Heritage Society to bring and to maximize our impact and their impact. So instead of one scholarship through our partnership, and then through the partnership of a anonymous donor, there are actually 3 scholarships this year instead of just 1. From November 1st to December 2nd, we're going to be collecting toys. That's the that's the project that Daniel's going to be working on for us. It's November 1st to December 2nd. So if you visit www.katytoydrive.org, you can learn more about what we're going to be collecting, who we're going to be distributing to, and if you would like to get your business location on the dock for actually, collecting those toys for us, all of the people who collect toys for us, we will be advertising you on our website. We will be promoting the heck out of you because we want you to get that business and that foot traffic so that you can get us more toys. Because the more business you have, the more toys you get, and the more toys we then get to better our community. And then I just want to mention a couple other things. We've got November 12th, in partnership with the City of Katy, the Keep Katy Beautiful nonprofit, and Texas Department of Transportation, as well as other organizations. We are having the Recycling Day and Trash Off from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, and that is going to be over at the Pin Oak First Baptist Church, which I know one of our audience members attends semi-regularly, ?
Very regularly.
What date is that?
So that, once again, that is November 12th. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. So if you have, if you have used batteries, if you have electronics, paper, scrap metal, appliances, the old tube TVs, if you have a load of eyeglasses, there's going to be on-site shredding. All of that's going to be at Katy's First Baptist Church from 9 a.m. to 12 noon on November 12th. And then the last thing I want to highlight for the month of November so far, because we're always adding hundreds and hundreds of more things as the year goes on, is we're working together with the Houston Texans on a fundraiser. So if you buy your ticket through us for the November 20th Washington Commanders game, a percentage of every ticket that is sold benefits us. So please visit us on the web at katylions.org to get those tickets. I also want to thank first. I want to thank FCC Katie at 22101 Morton Ranch Road for hosting us tonight. It was a quiet night because there was a lot of traffic on the road, plus there was an accident down the street. But if you haven't had a chance to get out here yet, every single day the FCC Katie is hosting the Patch. The Patch has been going on for 10 years, and I'm looking at the lead pastor for the church, and I am quite literally going to drag her over here if she doesn't come over on her own and ask her to give us just a couple of minutes on what the Patch is. So, Reverend Heather, if you would.
Yay! Pumpkin Patch is a cheap way that we raise money for the community, working with youth groups and high school groups, homeless teen organizations, veteran organizations, and so we raise money that we can do good work for them and provide them the things that they need. We raise a lot of money, but it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of people to come and shop, so Pumpkin Patch is just a great place to build community, be community, and celebrate all the fun things that happen in the fall. Is that good enough?
Yes, all out.
Okay. But thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. All right, so the presentation that Daniel provided is going to be on our website. It will be posted on the website at katielions.org. And then also details about the Patch and all of our the Pumpkin Patch and all of our volunteering efforts and activities will all be, they're already always posted on our website. Once again,
Instagram.
it's posted on our website at www.katielions.org. They're shared to our Instagram, which is instagram.com/beagreatlion. They're oftentimes shared to our Twitter page, which is twitter.com/beagreatlion. And if you're noticing a theme, you can also visit www.beagreatlion.org to get to our website. And with that, I want to thank everyone who attended, who managed to brave the traffic today. And I want to thank everyone who watches this in the next few days, in the next week, etc. And we'd love to hear from you. Hello@katielions.org. And now, good night.